If you want a woman to miss you, stop chasing. Scarcity creates value. Silence speaks louder than words, and self-improvement makes you unforgettable. Show standards, not neediness. Radiate strong energy, remain unpredictable, and let her feel your absence. She'll realize your worth only when you're no longer always available. Scarcity creates value because human nature is wired to desire what is not easily available. When something is abundant, when it is always there, when it is accessible at every moment, we unconsciously begin to take it for granted. This is not only true for material things, but even more true in relationships. When a man is always present, always answering instantly, always ready to give his time and attention, a woman does not feel the need to value him. She assumes he will always be there, waiting. And the moment she feels that certainty, the longing disappears. What makes a woman miss you is not your constant availability. It is the rare presence of your attention and the depth of your energy when she doesn't have it on demand. Think about it. Why do people suddenly realize the worth of something after it's gone? Because loss amplifies value. If you're always calling, always texting, always making yourself available, she never gets the chance to feel what life is like without you. She doesn't experience the absence, so there's nothing to miss. But when you deliberately pull back, when you create space, when you stop being predictable, she begins to sense the void. That absence creates a hunger. She starts wondering, where is he? Why isn't he reaching out? Did I lose his attention? That's when her mind begins to chase you. Scarcity is not about playing games. It is about shifting the dynamic of power. When you show her that your time is valuable, that you don't just hand out your energy without purpose, you communicate something very powerful. You are not desperate. You have a life. You have standards. You are not going to flood her with validation just because she exists. That energy makes her respect you, and with respect comes longing. When you create scarcity, it forces her to reflect. She remembers the things you used to give her, the conversations, the attention, the presence. And when those things are no longer consistent, she starts to crave them. The more she realizes they are not guaranteed, the more valuable they become in her mind. That's how human psychology works. We always want what we think we might lose. But the real art of scarcity lies in balance. If you withdraw completely, if you cut off without purpose, she may move on. The point is not to vanish. It is to make your presence rare enough to be cherished, but not so rare that it feels like abandonment. When you engage, do it with quality. When you show up, let it be impactful. That way, every moment with you carries weight because it isn't something she experiences every second of the day. Scarcity makes you unforgettable. It makes her realize that your presence is not something she can demand. It's something she has to earn. And once she feels that, missing you becomes inevitable. Detaching emotionally first is the most powerful step you can take if you want to make a woman miss you, especially when she is not interested. Because the truth is, as long as you are emotionally tied to her every reaction, you are her prisoner. If she replies, your mood lifts. If she ignores you, your world collapses. That dependency drains your energy and it pushes her further away. Women can sense when a man is emotionally desperate. They can feel the weight of your neediness, even if you try to hide it. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man who is constantly seeking validation. Detachment is about reclaiming your power. It is about taking your emotions out of her hands and putting them back into yours. When you stop making her response the center of your happiness, you begin to create freedom within yourself. That freedom is magnetic. It tells her you are not waiting for her approval to feel good about yourself. You are not seeking her to feel complete. You are already whole, and she can either choose to be a part of it or watch from the outside. But detachment doesn't mean you stop caring completely. It means you stop obsessing, you stop expecting, you stop imagining scenarios where she suddenly realizes your worth and comes running back. Instead, you root yourself in the present moment and build your life without depending on her. You shift the focus from what can I do to make her like me to what can I do to elevate myself. That inner shift creates an outer effect. Suddenly, she doesn't feel your energy pulling on her anymore. She feels your absence. She feels that her actions no longer control your emotions, and that unsettles her. A man who is emotionally detached becomes unpredictable. He no longer reacts the same way he used to. If she ignores him, he doesn't chase. If she pulls away, he doesn't beg. If she shows up, he doesn't drop everything to accommodate her. Instead, he stands firm in his boundaries. And that subtle shift changes everything, because what once was taken for granted now becomes uncertain. And uncertainty breeds curiosity. Curiosity leads to missing you. Detaching emotionally also protects your self-worth. It reminds you that no woman, no matter how attractive, defines your value. Your emotions belong to you. The moment you stop handing her that power, you become more attractive in her eyes, because women crave a man who can stand on his own, a man who doesn't crumble when ignored, a man who doesn't hand over his emotional stability to someone else. In the end, emotional detachment is not about punishing her. It is about freeing yourself. And when you free yourself, you change the entire dynamic. She no longer feels the weight of your neediness. She feels the absence of your attention. And that absence makes her realize just how powerful your presence truly was. That's when she starts to miss you. Not because you forced her to, but because you mastered the one thing most men never do: control over your emotions. Silence is presence because silence carries a weight that words can never match. When you stop speaking, when you stop chasing, when you stop explaining yourself, something shifts. A woman may not realize it instantly, but slowly she begins to feel the emptiness that your voice once filled. Silence is not weakness, it is power. It says, I don't need to convince you. I don't need to beg for you. My absence will speak louder than anything I could say. And that absence becomes the echo she cannot ignore. Most men fear silence. They fear that if they stop calling, stop texting, or stop reminding her of their existence, she will forget them. But the truth is the opposite. Silence creates contrast. When you are always talking, always available, your presence becomes routine. But when you step back, when the notifications stop, when the calls fade away, that routine is broken. She notices the stillness. She feels the gap. And in that gap, curiosity grows. Why is he so quiet? Did he move on? Is he no longer interested? Has he changed? Those questions play in her mind, and with each one, your silence becomes louder. Silence also commands respect. Words are cheap when they are constant, but silence cannot be faked. It takes discipline to hold back when every part of you wants to reach out. It takes strength to withhold the message you're tempted to send at midnight. That discipline becomes your presence. It shows her you are not controlled by impulse, not controlled by her, not controlled by the fear of losing her. And women respect a man who cannot be emotionally manipulated. There is another layer to silence. It forces reflection. When you stop giving her attention, she starts remembering. She recalls the times you made her laugh, the moments she felt safe with you, the way your energy filled her space. And because it's no longer there, those memories become sharper. The human mind values contrast. When something disappears, it suddenly feels bigger than it did when it was constant. Your silence makes her remember the presence she once overlooked. Silence is also unpredictable. She cannot read it. When you speak, she knows what you feel. When you explain, she knows your thoughts. But when you say nothing, she is left in uncertainty. And uncertainty is powerful. It makes her think about you more than words ever could. It places you in her mind, not because you pushed yourself there, but because your absence created space for her to fill with her own thoughts of you. In the end, silence is not empty, it is full. It is full of presence, of mystery, of strength. It is a reminder that you don't need to chase to be felt. The quiet energy of your absence creates an invisible pull, and that pull is often stronger than any words you could ever say. Silence, when used with purpose, becomes the loudest voice you will ever have. Self-improvement is magnetic because nothing draws a woman's attention more than a man who is constantly growing, evolving, and becoming better than he was yesterday. When you focus on yourself, when you invest in your mind, your body, and your goals, you radiate a different kind of energy, an energy that is impossible to ignore. Women may say they want consistency, but what keeps them intrigued is progress. A man who remains the same, who does not grow, eventually becomes predictable. But a man who keeps upgrading himself becomes a mystery, because she never knows what version of him she will meet next. That unpredictability is what makes her miss you when you're not around. Self-improvement is not just about physical changes, though they matter. When you hit the gym, improve your style, and take care of your health, it sends a strong message. You respect yourself. And respect is attractive. But the true magnetism of self-improvement goes deeper. It comes from the way you carry yourself when you know you are becoming better. Confidence doesn't come from chasing her. It comes from building yourself to the point where you no longer need her validation. And when she senses that shift, when she sees that you no longer place her at the center of your growth, she begins to feel your absence more deeply. When you start focusing on your own path, your energy changes. Instead of waiting for her to notice you, you're busy making moves in your own life. That change in focus is powerful because it creates scarcity in a natural way. You're no longer available to feed her ego, to keep her entertained, to always be at her service. And when you're not there, she begins to notice the void. She begins to miss the attention she once had on demand. That's when the longing begins, not because you forced it, but because your growth has created distance. Another magnetic aspect of self-improvement is the aura of discipline. A man who invests in himself shows he can commit, that he has vision, that he is willing to put in the work. Discipline is rare, and rarity is attractive. When a woman sees a man dedicated to his craft, his health, his mindset, she knows he is not ordinary. Ordinary men settle, extraordinary men grow, and the extraordinary man is the one she remembers, the one she thinks about when he's not there. But the most powerful thing about self-improvement is that it shifts the balance of value. When she sees you moving forward without her, when she realizes you are becoming a better man regardless of her presence, she feels the fear of loss. She begins to wonder if she is missing out, if you are slipping away into a version of yourself that she can no longer easily access. And that fear creates desire. That fear makes her miss you. In the end, a man who chooses growth over chasing becomes irresistible, because every step he takes towards bettering himself makes her realize something very simple. If she doesn't hold on, someone else will. Unpredictability keeps her hooked because the human mind craves mystery more than certainty. When everything is predictable, when she knows exactly what you will say, what you will do, and how you will react, you become routine. And routine never creates longing. Routine is safe, but it is also forgettable. On the other hand, unpredictability keeps her alert, keeps her curious, and most importantly, keeps her thinking about you long after you've walked away. A woman does not miss what she can fully control. She misses what she cannot figure out. When you are unpredictable, you create tension, not the negative kind, but the kind that excites her, the kind that makes her wonder. If you are always available, always texting good morning, always responding instantly, she stops paying attention. But when you break the pattern, when one day you are fully present and the next you are focused on yourself, she starts questioning what's going on. That questioning is powerful because it keeps her emotionally invested. It's not about playing childish games. It's about refusing to be a man she can fully read. Unpredictability also builds contrast. For example, when you spend time with her and you're deeply engaging, present, and charismatic, but then you disappear into your own world for a while, she feels the difference sharply. That gap makes her miss the high energy presence you gave her before. If she always has access to you, there's no gap, no contrast, and nothing to miss. But when you balance presence with absence, warmth with distance, attention with silence, she is constantly kept in a state of curiosity. And curiosity leads directly to missing you. What makes unpredictability so powerful is that it sparks imagination. When you are not showing her everything, when you're not explaining every detail of your life, she fills the blanks herself. She wonders where you are, who you're with, what you're doing, and why you're not reaching out. Her mind creates scenarios, and the more she imagines, the more her thoughts revolve around you. A man who is too transparent, too easy to read, gives her nothing to think about. But a man who holds back, who reveals himself in layers, who remains a little mysterious, becomes unforgettable. Unpredictability also establishes dominance over your own emotions. It shows you are not a puppet reacting to her actions. If she ignores you, you don't instantly chase. If she tests you, you don't respond in the expected way. Instead, you hold your ground and sometimes even surprise her with your calmness, your indifference, or your unexpected strength. That unpredictability shakes her because it tells her she doesn't fully control you. And the moment she feels she doesn't have full control, she starts to value your presence more. At the core, unpredictability is about being dynamic. It's about being a man who is full of layers, goals, and surprises, a man who cannot be pinned down or placed into a box. And when you carry that energy, she never knows what's next with you. That keeps her engaged, keeps her intrigued, and most of all, keeps her missing you whenever you're not around. Showing standards instead of neediness is one of the most powerful ways to make a woman miss you, because when you have standards, you send a clear message. Your time, your energy, and your presence are valuable. You are not going to hand them out freely to someone who doesn't appreciate them. Most men do the opposite. They operate from neediness, constantly trying to prove themselves, begging for her attention, and tolerating disrespect just to keep her around. And that behavior always backfires because what is easily available is never valued. A man with standards does not chase validation. He doesn't bend over backwards to keep a woman who isn't investing back into him. Instead, he knows what he deserves, and he is willing to walk away when his worth is not recognized. That confidence is rare, and it immediately sets him apart. Women are used to men who fold under pressure, who keep giving no matter how little they receive in return. So when she meets a man who refuses to operate that way, she feels the difference. And that difference lingers in her mind long after he is gone. Standards also communicate self-respect. When you show a woman that you won't tolerate games, disrespect, or lack of effort, you're silently saying, I value myself too much to accept less than I deserve. That energy is magnetic. It makes her realize she cannot treat you like every other man. She has to step up or she will lose you. And here's the truth. Loss is what creates longing. The moment she sees that you will walk away rather than lower your standards, she begins to fear losing your presence. That fear eventually turns into missing you. Neediness, on the other hand, is repelling. A needy man sends the message that he needs her more than she needs him. He prioritizes her over himself. He tries too hard to please, too hard to prove, too hard to convince. And in doing so, he communicates weakness. Women may enjoy the attention of a needy man for a while, but they never truly miss him when he's gone, because his presence never carried value in the first place. It was too easy, too available, too desperate. Showing standards doesn't mean being arrogant or dismissive. It means knowing what you want, setting boundaries, and refusing to compromise on your core values. It means you don't tolerate inconsistent behavior, you don't accept being a backup option, and you don't allow anyone to treat you like you are replaceable. That firmness creates attraction because women admire strength. They admire a man who is not afraid to demand more by expecting better. When you live with standards, you shift the balance. Instead of being the one chasing her, she begins to chase you. Instead of trying to prove yourself to her, she begins to prove herself to you. And when you step back, when you disappear into your own life, she doesn't just miss a man, she misses a man with standards, a man she knows she cannot easily replace. That is what makes you unforgettable. Energy speaks louder than effort because people don't just hear your words or notice your actions. They feel your energy. You can try as hard as you want. You can put in endless effort to prove your worth. But if the energy behind it is desperate, insecure, or needy, it will push her away instead of pulling her closer. Women are highly sensitive to energy. They can detect whether you are moving from a place of confidence or from a place of fear. And no amount of chasing, texting, calling, or trying to impress her can hide the energy you carry inside. When a man radiates calmness, certainty, and self-respect, his presence speaks before he even opens his mouth. She feels it in the way he walks, the way he carries himself, the way he looks at her without trying to beg for validation. That kind of energy is magnetic because it communicates strength without words. It says, I don't need to prove myself to you. I know who I am. And that confidence lingers long after he leaves the room. On the other hand, when a man overcompensates with effort, his energy betrays him. He might shower her with attention, compliments, and gifts, but underneath all of that, she feels the desperation. She senses that everything he's doing comes from a place of fear. Fear of losing her, fear of not being enough, fear of being forgotten. And that fear is unattractive, no matter how much effort is shown on the surface. Women don't miss effort that feels forced. They miss the energy of a man whose presence makes them feel safe, admired, and intrigued without him having to try too hard. The truth is, energy is effortless. When you are aligned with yourself, when you're genuinely focused on your growth and happiness, you don't need to chase or prove anything. Your vibe naturally communicates abundance. You're not seeking her to fill a void. You're inviting her to be part of a life that already has meaning. That shift in energy is what makes her drawn to you, even when you're silent, even when you're not putting in obvious effort. Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who didn't say much, didn't try to impress, but their presence was unforgettable? That's energy. It's the invisible force that leaves an impact without trying. And when you carry that kind of energy, a woman will miss you not because of what you did, but because of how you made her feel. This is why you must focus more on your internal state than external actions. If your energy is needy, no amount of effort can hide it. If your energy is strong, grounded, and confident, you don't need much effort at all. She will feel it. She will sense it. And when you're not around, it is that energy she will long for, not the forced attempts to win her over. Because in the end, it's never about how hard you try. It's about the energy you carry wherever you go. Letting her feel the loss is the final and most powerful step in making any woman miss you. Because no matter how much she takes you for granted in the moment, the truth is people only realize the true value of something when it's gone. As long as you are there, available, always showing up, she assumes your presence is guaranteed. She convinces herself that no matter how she treats you, no matter how little effort she gives, you will always remain. And when she thinks she has that certainty, she never truly feels the need to miss you. The power only begins when you take a step back and allow her to experience life without your presence. Loss has a way of shaking people awake. It forces them to compare. When you stop calling, when you stop texting, when you stop making her the center of your world, she begins to notice the difference. Suddenly, the compliments are gone, the support is missing, the warmth you provided is no longer there. And in that silence, she begins to feel the weight of what she once had. That is when she reflects. That is when she wonders if she underestimated you, and that wondering turns into missing you. The key here is that you don't force it. You don't announce, "I'm leaving so you can miss me." You don't try to manipulate her emotions with dramatic exits. You simply withdraw naturally, gracefully, with strength. You shift your focus back to yourself, your goals, your growth. You no longer hand her the privilege of your constant attention. That quiet withdrawal speaks louder than words. She feels it in the absence of your presence. She feels it in the emptiness of her routine. She feels it in the silence that once was filled by your voice. Letting her feel the loss is not about punishment. It's about clarity. It gives her the chance to see what life looks like without you. And in many cases, that is the only way she will ever realize your true worth. Because while words and actions can be ignored, absence cannot. Absence lingers. Absence creates contrast. Absence makes her compare how things were with you and how things feel without you. And in that comparison, she starts to long for you again. The beauty of this step is that it shifts the power back to you. You're no longer waiting for her to validate you. You're no longer trying to prove why she should stay. You're simply living your life, allowing her to notice what she walked away from. And the truth is, when you carry yourself with strength, when you grow in silence, when you no longer beg for her attention, that loss becomes heavier for her to bear. She realizes she had something rare, something valuable, and she let it slip. That regret turns into missing you. In the end, letting her feel the loss is the ultimate test. If she truly values you, she will return. If she doesn't, then her absence only proves that your standards were right. Either way, you win, because you gave her the one thing she couldn't ignore, the silence of your absence and the undeniable weight of losing you. At the end of the day, making a woman miss you has nothing to do with chasing, begging, or proving yourself. It has everything to do with how you carry yourself. Scarcity creates your value. Emotional detachment protects your power. Silence makes your presence louder than words. Self-improvement transforms you into someone unforgettable. Unpredictability keeps her curious. Standards separate you from every man she's ever known. Your energy, not your effort, defines how deeply she feels you. And most importantly, letting her feel your loss forces her to realize what she had. A woman does not miss the man who is always available, who bends to her every demand, who hands over his worth without hesitation. She misses the man who values himself enough to walk away, who lives with purpose, who does not beg to be chosen. Because true desire is born in absence, in mystery, in strength. So if you want her to miss you badly, deeply, even if she isn't interested right now, don't give her more of yourself. Give her less. Pull back, rise higher, and watch how silence, growth, and strength do the work for you. Because when you stop chasing, you become the one who is chased.